As landscape professionals, you have a number of responsibilities maintaining parks, highways, and other areas that provide enjoyment for a large number of people, as well as the responsibility of fire safety of these areas. The equipment, chemicals, and techniques you use can be hazardous, but being aware of the hazards and taking action to prevent accidents is what safety is all about. It's called safety awareness. Safety is something everyone talks about, but how do you become an accident-free employee? It takes a conscious effort on your part to think safety before you decide to perform any job. Think about the hazard, then take the action to reduce the risk. This sort of training program won't list all the hazards associated with landscape maintenance, but it will give you an idea about some of the hazards and some of the actions you can take to prevent accidents. You are the most important part of the safety program. Let's begin by how to properly dress for work. Always follow your company's procedures. Generally, it's recommended you wear long pants to provide some degree of skin protection from tree branches, flying objects, and other hazards. Don't wear rings or bracelets, as these items can get caught in the equipment or moving parts and cause a nasty accident. Eye and hearing protection are basic items that may be required. Tennis shoes should not be worn. Tennis shoes are very comfortable, but they do not offer any protection from cuts, scratches, chemical spills, or any other hazards. Leather-topped shoes that are in serviceable condition should be worn. You may also be required to wear respiratory protection when working with chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, or other types of hazardous materials. When personal protective equipment is provided, it must be worn. If you think personal protective equipment is hot, or you have some other reason for not wanting to wear it, check out some of the hospitals in your area and ask the people who have experienced accidents if the protection is worth the inconvenience. Okay, let's review some equipment considerations, specifically mowers. First of all, the equipment used is professional equipment, and it's slightly different than the type people buy for their home use. The very first safety rule is to maintain your equipment carefully. Never begin a day without following your company's policy for equipment maintenance. Depending upon the equipment used, your daily maintenance may include checking the oil, water, and fluid levels of the equipment. Belts for pulleys take a lot of wear and tear and should be checked daily for cracks or breaks and to make sure they are positioned properly on the equipment pulleys. When belts begin to stretch from use, it's time to replace them. You can see the difference between a new belt and a stretched belt. Check these daily. If your equipment requires batteries, make sure the battery water is at the correct level. A battery can be ruined if it's used without water. Corrosion and defective cables add to the power drain on the battery, so keep the batteries clean and cables in good condition. If you're not sure what to check on the equipment, read the manufacturer's operating instructions or ask your supervisor. It's extremely important to check the blades of mowers. Blades must be sharp. If they're dull, you can't cut as well, and it puts a strain on the equipment. Mower blades must be sharp. It's a simple rule. If the equipment cuts, the blades or cutting edges must be sharp to do a good job. Dull cutting edges are also safety hazards. Be sure to check all safety devices on the equipment. Missing guards or other safety devices can result in accidents. Look under the equipment for wires or other items that may have jammed the blades or pulleys. Never try to clear a jam or put your hands under a mower or other piece of equipment unless the motor is turned off. Oftentimes, mowers get jammed and the driver stops the mower and puts the transmission in neutral. The blades aren't moving, so it must be okay to check it out. Do not try to clear jams or work on any equipment unless the motor is turned off. If you must work on a piece of equipment, take the key out of the ignition so no one else can turn it on accidentally. When you start a riding mower, the only way to safely start the motor is from the driver's seat with the transmission in neutral and the handbrake on. Here's another major safety rule. When you leave your mower, take the key out to prevent someone from taking a joyride. After starting the mower or at any time you're operating it, if you notice an unusual noise or unusual vibrations, stop the mower, turn off the motor, and check it out. It's better to delay mowing until you find out what's wrong with the equipment. A minor repair is much better than running a defective mower until it needs a complete overhaul. Of course, you know that the discharge side of the mower is potentially hazardous, as small rocks and other objects can be ejected, causing injuries. Keep people at a distance when you're mowing, especially those sidewalk supervisors and children. If anyone is struck by rocks ejected from the mower, it's your fault. Keep everyone away, and of course if you see any objects in your way, stop and remove them. Cans, rocks, toys, pieces of wood. Be on the lookout for sprinkler heads sticking up out of the grass. It's a good idea to walk the area first before you start mowing. Proceed with caution when mowing. There are many unseen hazards, so be alert when mowing with a rider mower. When mowing on an incline or a slope, be sure to mow across the face of the slope, avoiding angles that could cause you to tip over. When using a hand mower, always push the mower. Don't pull it because one slip could easily put you under the blade. Okay, on power equipment. There are some important safety considerations to follow. First, never refuel a hot motor. Allow it to cool before refueling. Keep a fire extinguisher close by just in case a fire starts. Use only an approved safety can for flammable liquids. An approved container is one that has a spring-loaded lid to prevent spills, and it has a flame arrestor on the inside of the can, as shown here. There are millions of unapproved gas cans which can be purchased anywhere. Use only approved containers. In addition to mowers, string trimmers are very useful in trimming grass, weeds, and brush in hard-to-reach areas and places powers can't reach. String trimmers also cause many injuries every year. Eye injuries are the most common, so eye protection is essential. Full face shields, such as the type shown here, are recommended due to the flying dirt, stones, and debris made by trimmers. The trimmers make a lot of noise, so hearing protection is also mandatory. There are other types of personal protection available, so be sure to follow your organization's policies and procedures. Trimmers require daily maintenance also. Fuel, oil, and other fluid levels must be checked as required. Be sure you know the proper mix of fuel and oil if your trimmer requires oil in the fuel system. Check to make sure the guards are in place and never remove them. Check to see if the recommended trimming line is on the spool or you have replacement spools with you on the job. When starting the trimmer, be sure no one is nearby and hold the trimmer with a trimming spool near the ground. Remember when we talked about wearing leather-topped shoes? There are several good reasons for that recommendation, but when using the trimmer you'll soon find out if you wear canvas-type shoes. Also, when you work on steep slopes, leather-topped shoes provide better support and may prevent an ankle strain. Don't forget about the possibility of snakes. In many areas of the country, snakes are a potential hazard, so be on the lookout for snakes in brush, high grass, or other areas. Your job may require the use of chemicals, herbicides, fertilizers, vegetation killers, and a variety of other chemicals. Carefully follow the directions on the chemical label. Your employer maintains a list of material safety data sheets on all chemicals used. Familiarize yourself with this information so you'll be able to make the right decision when storing, handling, and using these materials. Proper disposal of the chemical containers is mandatory, so follow the rules on disposing of the containers. Above all, take the precautions necessary to keep the chemicals out of your breathing zone. Dust should be applied or used when you are upwind, or you may need to wear a respirator. Keep chemicals out of ditches, ponds, streams, and other areas that may harm the environment. Taking the time for safety is a catchy phrase, but it has an important meaning. Before you do something, think of what you're doing, how you're going to perform the job safely. It doesn't take any time, it just takes the effort on your part to be aware of safety each and every time you perform a task. Let's review a few tips now on chainsaws. They can be great time and labor savers, but they require a major safety effort on your part. They aren't toys, and you should never use a chainsaw or any equipment until you have been properly trained and authorized by the company. Let's begin by saying chainsaws were designed to cut. They will cut trees, hands, arms, legs, brush, almost anything. Take chainsaw safety seriously. Perform daily maintenance on the equipment. Make sure the teeth of the saw are sharpened. Check the parts of the equipment you'll be using, such as the throttle, handholds, guard, fuel tank, bar, and so on. Inspect the chain and how snug it is against the bar. Too much slack and the chain can come off the pulley. Too little play and the bar will wear or the chain may break during operation. The chain brake is an important safeguard, as it is designed to quickly stop the chain in the event it does break. We already discussed refueling, and chainsaws get very hot, so let them cool before refueling. In dry areas, hot chainsaws can start fires, so use caution when setting them down. How you start a chainsaw is important. The only safe method of starting a chainsaw is while the saw is on the ground. If you must work on the chainsaw, disconnect the spark plug from the motor as insurance against an unwanted startup. When you're operating a chainsaw, you need to think about kickbacks. A kickback is when you strike the wood you're cutting with the tip and the force of the saw kickbacks towards you. It can also occur by running the engine too slowly during the cutting process or perhaps by cutting above the height of your shoulder. Be aware of kickbacks and keep your head, face, and other body parts out of the kickback range. Many injuries occur by trying to hold the saw in one hand and using the other hand to hold what you're cutting. Keep both hands on the chainsaw. Unsafe footing or overhanging branches are hazards. Clear the area before you begin cutting. Be sure to keep the area under the tree clear when working at heights. You never know when something could fall below. Okay, you've finished cutting the trees, and now you want to dispose of the discarded material. The most effective method is using a chipper to grind the branches and the wood so it can be packed into a truck for hauling to the dump. Did you notice we said grind the discarded material? Chippers will grind limbs, branches, wood, hands, fingers, and almost anything you put in the throat of the machine. You must absolutely be aware of the hazard and take action to prevent an accident. What happens if your glove gets caught on a branch or tree limb? In goes your hand. Don't even think about putting your hand near the throat area. If you need to push tree limbs through, use a stick, not your hand. Stand to one side when loading the chipper, and never climb on the truck when the chipper is in operation, and stay well away from the discharge end of the chipper. Maintenance on the chipper is important also. Make sure the blades are sharp, since dull blades can jam the chipper or kick back wood when you're loading. Pay attention to proper fluid levels of the truck and chipper equipment. Basically, common sense items. There's no secret to landscape safety. It does require an effort on your part to think about safety and take action to prevent accidents. The employee is the most important part of any safety program. Think about safety, and if it can't be done safely, don't do it. Thank you.